Yeah, the proverb. Have you been to Cape Verde?
No.
In your frequent travels?
No.
But you know where it is? On the map?
If I remember my geography, Cape Verde must be on the other side.
So on this side?
West.
Okay.
West Africa. West.
Wapi hapo karibu?
Towards Ghana, Senegal sides, I think. Or somewhere under there. Yeah.
Somewhere under there.
Mali hapo, a dot somewhere.
Well, actually, yes. It's a big dot, though. Yes. Yes, an interesting country and a beautiful country. The bat, B-A-T, hangs upside down because because of the words told to it by the sun. The bat hangs upside down.
You know the animal, the mammal, the bat?
Yeah.
What's it called in Swahili?
No idea.
Same.
Popo.
Popo. Oh, yeah, true.
Popo. As in P-O-P-O.
P-O-P-O.
Popo.
So that thing hangs upside down
because of the words told to it by the sun. The sun.
S-O-N.
S-U-N has told it. Are you also a frequent flyer? But there's a frequent flyer thing going on here.
They're them and the bats.
You use not frequent flyer, you use frequent traveler. Yes.
So, the bat hangs upside down
because of the words told to
it by the Jua.
Yes.
Is that your explanation of bottom-up economics?
Well, the tradition in this studio dictates that you give us your interpretation of it and not to ask us those questions you're asking us.
But that's why I have no interpretation for that particular proverb.
But the Norwegians don't have bats.
Still have an you are not escaping. What do you think the inner meaning for this would be?
The best guess, because this is a guess, is that we all have to obey nature. Right? When nature calls, we have to obey. That's the best I can get to.
All right. Yes.
And I'm using significant brain power to try.
And just to answer your question, there are 11 varieties of bats in Norway. Okay? Just so that you know.
Yeah, but that's a point. They still sleep upside down and there's no sun for 6 months.
Okay.
So there's light?
No. There's human light, but they stay in darkness for months.
You know me, I've not been to Norway. So
we're to find hivi city, tuendelee.
Yeah, because this darkness forever for 6 months. This is new to me. Okay.
Your interpretation actually sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, we even agree with you. And in fact, the bats in Norway probably don't even sleep upside down. Just so that we finish this thing,
where else can I have so much fun? So where else on earth?
Mark, while you are away,
yes,
like you said, something's happened in Kenya.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you said that, there was a reawakening.
A renaissance.
Abu, tell us.
I have been thinking hard about the nearly every 10-year revolutions we have in this country. Since nearly every 10 years. So we start 91, 92. Actually, let's start 82, right? 91, 92.
Why don't you go earlier?
Huh?
Why is that with 82? Why don't you go a little earlier?
I'm speaking to millennials.
No, let's give them the full history.
Yeah. So 78, you go back to 68,
yes.
You go back to 63.
Yes.
Right? Each of those decades, or thereabout, Kenyans are either on the street, they're either picketing for something new.
Yes.
Every 10 years. And the question I ask myself is, if you look at the core issues that they are fighting for, they remain the same, but something always hijacks it. We get some placebo medicine, and then we go back to where we started. So, for example, 1992, we say we fought for multi-party democracy. But multi-party democracy was the route to a better society. That's what we are fighting for.
That was how it was sold.
Yes. We got multi-party. It didn't solve corruption, did not solve tribalism, and did not solve bad leadership. So 2002, we sang Yote Wezekana Bila Moi. By the time it was 2005, Anglo-leasing had happened, and Kenyans had given up on arresting cops who were taking bribes by 2005. By 2007, President Kibaki nearly lost office, and this country almost went to war. 3 years later, we voted in a new constitution in the hope that a constitution will give us a better society. So we write a very nice document with a very nice chapter 6. Our society didn't change. 14 years later, we are back on the street asking for the same things our parents and grandparents asked for. The question we must ask ourselves is, what will it finally take for Kenya to stop aborting its revolutions? What will it take?
Why were the previous ones, in your opinion, aborted? Why?
Politicians. Every time Kenya wanted change, we entrusted change to politicians. Most of the time, we said we have multi-party, so let's vote in people, not maintain our clamor for a new society. 2002, Mwai Kibaki is my best example. Mwai Kibaki came into office when Kenyans hated corruption with a passion. Kenyans were willing to do citizen arrests before it was a thing. The moment Mwai Kibaki let them down through Anglo-leasing, that moment Kenyans gave up again. Biggest problem with all our revolutions is we give it to politicians to birth what we got pregnant with. And politicians always steal the baby.
But who are politicians?
Exactly. James Orengo was an activist. Martha Karua, activist. Kiretu Murungi, activist. Became politicians. Honestly, impact on this country, zero.
You mean, Buana? What is the impact? How are you measuring your impact?
What they set out to do in setting up a society that was not only cogent in its ideology, but also a society where corruption was shunned, where good leadership was the pillar of this country, we've not achieved that. If the dream of 1992 was achieved, Gen Z will not be on the streets today.
Why didn't you mention Raila in that list, by the way?
Same story. In fact, Raila Odinga, today as we speak, he tried to have a conversation with William Ruto. What did the young people say? Don't do what you usually do. Not because conversations are wrong, and I'm a big supporter of conversations, but because the young people are protecting the revolution they've started from politics. And I don't mean worldwide politics, I mean Kenyan politics. Because there's something that happens that what we want morally as a society, our aspirations as a people, whenever we go to the streets, whenever we demonstrate, whenever doctors go to the street, whatever happens, what people always want is better leadership, accountability, and the moral fiber of our country to change. which is why churches are in trouble today. Right? But the moment we take this positive tension the people need to have with their government and their leadership, and then entrust that to the Kenyan political process, we abort.
So, Mark, if you look at the examples that you've given in the run-up to this one, without this one, minus this one, is it the people popular ground-up uprising, or is it activists or some sort of leader then going to work with the ground and helping the ground to rise? And the people then saying, because, I mean, you have been our champion in this, we entrust you with the process to cross us over across the Jordan River into Canaan. With the difference here being, this time, it's not, there's not any individual that is in the forefront of this.
Yes.
So is that observation correct?
So, up to now, each time we've had some form of revolution, we've entrusted it to an individual.
At what point are we entrusting it to the individual?
Usually?
At the launch of the revolution? Or at the end?
Towards the end. Because any good politician will tell you, whenever the masses want something, you get ahead of them and claim it for yourself. That's generally how it works, right? What we've done as a country is when we entrust that change to an individual, we go back to our homes and trust that person to do. Yet we forget the genesis of everything we do is the people. Now, what do the people want and what have we wanted all these years? One, a better society. Do you know how I know that is true? The moment this protest started, have you seen any flashing light car overlapping? Was that one of the demands from the Gen Z?
Nope.
How did they know that they need to stop?
They knew.
It means
Flashy opulence.
They also knew that what they were doing was wrong.
Exactly. Exactly my point. Kenya needs to have and continue to have positive tension between the people and their government. By government, I don't mean executive, president. I don't mean parliament. I just don't mean judiciary, not even MCAs alone. There needs to be constant tension, positive tension. That tension can never be entrusted to an individual. Otherwise, we will abort it again. We need to keep, forget about the Gunzi hirelings. That KFC, Uber, smartphone needs to continue. Why? Because we need to entrench good manners in leadership and in society.
Are there examples anywhere that you could say that it was a people's movement and it remained a people's movement and it was not entrusted onto individuals?
Oh, that's simple. Let's talk about the country where it's called La Liberté, the French. The French had a revolution against the monarchy, then had Napoleon and all his games. Those people have maintained positive tension between them and their government every decade, almost every year to date.
Okay. From the moment they had that revolution and they overthrew the monarch and that system and they installed this other one, did it continue or was there a break?
So there were many breaks. That's why I mentioned Napoleon and his antics. However,
so immediately, they handed it over to individuals,
to a parliamentary system.
Yeah.
Now, hear me well.
But there was a leadership in the parliamentary system. There was a figurehead.
Yeah, I'm not saying there should not be a leadership. I'm saying that the people should never give up the demand for good manners from their leadership. So when the French put in people in power,
Yeah.
they continued to hold them accountable.
Through and through.
Through and through. Right? Now, if you look at Africa in general, you will not find many people who continue to hold their governments accountable after they come into power. So, for example, there's a saying in the south of Africa that they want to be liberated from their liberators. Okay? South Africa is a prime example. You've seen the move of people away from the ANC. Yet the ANC was their liberating people. Problem is that when the ANC came into power, especially after Mbeki and Mandela, the people abdicated much of the agitation that they had.
They trusted.
Exactly.
I think, Mark, before you tell us then what you think people should do to safeguard this revolution, I want to ask you actually, with the example that you've given, just with France alone, and that the citizens keep coming back and pushing back, you could say it's the same case with Kenya.
Yes.
It's the same case. So the Kenyan people they sort of give that to the political class, and then that political class lets them down, and they come back and they grab it and they say, no, we want different. But we want some difference. With increasing vigor over the years, in the initial stages, from Mau Mau into the Kenyatta government, there was, disquiet with what was happening with the JMs and all, and the people, and they were being suppressed, but it was still bubbling under. The More Kenya movement coming out into the 80s, with Moi leading into 88, into 91, then again into 2000, into 2007, as you said, into the demand for the constitution, into 2010. It's been rising, but the people have not just gone back and slept. They always realize that.
Actually, they've gone back and slept.
Have they?
Yes, they have, because this trust deficit we keep speaking of arises because there was an abundance of it at some point. And that probably was our undoing. The faith that when these people were in positions of authority, they will do good by us. Okay? But this particular moment in time, we're seeing for the first time a structured accountability process has been set in motion, where you're being told, it starts with, we don't want this bill, okay? And somebody says, you vote. And we told you we didn't want it, you didn't listen. So this is what we're doing now. And it continues. Now, there are many things that people may find unsavory, but the point is, for the first time in the history of this country, the sovereign has understood that the accountability factor is not somebody you leave in someone's hands. You keep them in check consistently. So they understand this is what you're supposed to do. If you're not doing it, we're watching you. Yeah. And we want to see you doing what you said you would do. Now that, in my mind, is the fundamental change that we're seeing.
Exactly.
It's a beginning of it. I agree.
Yes.
I think it's what I kept saying. It keeps morphing. It morphed in the run-up to 2010. It morphed and we said we don't trust individuals. We shall trust systems.
Yes.
And systems shall have counterbalances and checks. And those systems then will make sure that this thing is working. And so we put it in the systems. And the system, again, is hijacked by the individuals. And now people are like, all right, so even with the system, it's not... But do you see the people doing this thing that they're doing on a daily basis going forward into the next 20, 30 years? It'll have to come back into something.
That is what we have to fight for.
Okay. How?
We have to fight to continue fighting. And put it in perspective. Number one, President Ruto today has a blank slate. Today, he does not need to do regional balance. He does not say, oh, you are Mkamba, you are incompetent, but you are Mkamba, I'll put you in my cabinet. Now,
or if I remove you, I have to replace you
with another Mkamba. Right? Number two, he is free from political debt. Right? Today, he can chart a new vision for this country. But at the same time, he's got a population that has removed itself from the politics of the ballot to the politics of oversight. That 2010 Constitution, brilliant document. We wrote it down. We praised chapter 6. My friend, I sang that song. Then we decide chapter 6 is a self-declaration form. Are you a thief? Yes or no? Are you a liar? Yes or no? That's chapter 6. Right? When we watered it down, it is not because the people did not want it. It's because the people stopped agitating. Okay? We've changed presidents. We've not changed the presidency and how it works. Our opportunity is to help President Ruto define what leadership and democracy is going to be, because he has started listening to the people. Biggest mistake we make is if we, the people, stop talking.
Or we trust that he has heard.
Exactly. Right? We have to assume, for the sake of our country, that this is not Mandamano anymore. It should be our character moving forward. So that tomorrow, when there's a chair of a board who's caught in corruption, there's no church to go to, you kneel down to be prayed for. There's no village to go back to say our people are being attacked. And whoever is your boss, whether you are appointed by a CS or a president, they can fire you as quickly as the allegations come up, because the Kenyan people are active. The force of the people should make it such that whichever president, MP, governor, MCA we have moving forward has to be accountable not just to the system, but to our people who are awake and aware, and will take their civic duty, take it up, not only to recall, that might be a long process, but to make your life very uncomfortable. And one of the things that we must codify today is you get a public job, you must have a public phone number, and Kenyans are allowed to say hi to you when you make mistakes. I don't mean with hands and fists, but talk to you. Now, let me give you another example. The United States, when not parliamentarians, Congress and Senate go on recess, they go back to their various districts and they have town halls. And they are talked to by people. School districts have meetings and people talk about the books in classes. They say, we don't like this book, right? Sometimes they go overboard and they say they don't want books with violence, they don't want books with certain content, and then they find
religious overtones.
Yes, then they find that thing they are banning is the Bible they're trying to defend because it has violence and other things. But that's a side story. But the continued participation of people beyond the election, in my view, is Ruto's best opportunity to be a watershed president, because only Mwai Kibaki was given the opportunity to do right and start the country afresh. He's been given the same opportunity. We must make sure there's no Anglo-leasing. We must make sure there's a new vision, new direction, new accountability in this country. So we need to move this Mandamano from Tuesday to Thursday to every day, everywhere, not Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, Gen Alpha. We need to make it constant. Otherwise, we will face another abortion.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you. So then what are the risks towards an abortion of this revolution? What are the risks that we see at this point? Because it seems like everybody's gung-ho at this point at saying, you know what, it's an opportunity to ensure that there's good governance. Yes. But that there's a risk to losing momentum. Is there a risk to apathy, lethargy? What?
That's exactly what the risk is. First and foremost, let's remember, we fired 20 people, 21, right? But there are 300 plus parliamentarians. 47 times 2 governors, because they have deputies. Over 3,000 MCAs. Over 600 parastatal heads. Bado mapambano. Because this change that we have embraced as a country, if we stop at cabinet, we've aborted. If we stop at parliament, we've aborted. If we stop at stopping overlapping, we've aborted. We must continue. Not Tuesday and Thursday, but Monday, Wednesday, every day. And not just at President Ruto, not at Rigathi Gachagua. They have an opportunity, honestly, to actually change this country. As long as they agree with the people.
That's true.
They have it. But if the people stop tagging that rope, what will 2 people do against 300 parliamentarians? Let's not forget, there's democracy, but there's the overwhelming power of stupid. There is the overwhelming power of stupid. Because in the middle of this revolution, someone can dare say that the biggest loss they had is to lose 10,000 followers on Instagram. So it's not just the fight against corruption. We must
fight against stupid.
Yes.
Mark, everything that you're saying is true. But then I think the reality of things is that right now there's a critical mass of people because of the event that is unfolding.
Yes.
Right? It's an event. But this critical mass is realistically unsustainable. And that's why in all these places you find that systems then come in where individuals are the ones who drive. And once in a while they call upon the critical mass to help push. Right? So eventually, the reality is we will again retreat and go back to everything that we are doing. Everybody who, the 100,000, no, almost 1 million people who are consuming X spaces every day. Almost, we were told, 1 billion people who are consuming all this content every day and talking and agitating. It will be the same as what was happening in the 80s, late 80s and into the 90s, where people were sitting at 6 p.m. to listen to BBC because it was giving them information about this push that we are having for multi-partyism. And then they went back to their shambas. And they went back to start having a drink in the evening without necessarily having to talk about, lakini ataenda. Right? So we have to know that we are going to delegate it into something. So what is this thing that we are going to delegate it to?
Excellent question.
In America, they've given us the examples. Yes, the representatives are coming back to the people, but then there's a structure. There's a structure that is mobilizing and organizing. Town hall here, this, there.
Yes.
Not everybody in a town goes to the town hall.
Yes.
But there are people who go to the town hall.
Yeah. In fact, you've answered your question. Because not everyone should be concerned about everything all the time. That's not how life works. But everyone is involved in an area of life that they should hold the leaders in that area accountable. So, for example, you are a farmer, okay? You are getting fake maize, fake fertilizer, fake seeds. That requires not only the farmers' unions, but the farmers themselves to hold their parliamentarians, who are supposed to represent them, accountable, to hold the CS of agriculture accountable, and push towards that direction with the goodwill of the country. You are a doctor, you are an engineer. That agitation needs now to fall into not the general move of the people, but needs to fall into the accountability of the various spheres of professional activity and what affects you. So, for example, let's say you're a person living with a disability. What happens in that space should be a space for you to agitate, to create proper facilities for public participation. Because one of the things that President Ruto keeps asking for, yet it is in the Constitution, is public participation. It's not dialogue. It is public participation. But that public participation has been watered down because you write to the general public and you say, please give your views on bridges being built in Karumaindo.
By 5 p.m. on Tuesday.
Yes. What do I know about bridges? Instead, what should happen is you should create focused groups. Who lives in Karumaindo? Who are the engineers who know about building bridges? What are the transport needs of the people in Karumaindo? So what do the transporters need? Put them together properly. The same way they organize conferences for MPs to discuss what they can discuss in Parliament in Naivasha. Do it structurally. How do we do that? This revolution and this president who is listening as at now need to meet, not for dialogue. They need to meet at the point where public participation is properly structured with stakeholders, held regularly. In other words, we should know that in every county, we are discussing the budget, national budget in every county, every 1st of April every year, because it's my birthday. Right? We should know that we are discussing healthcare every 10th of March every year. So that the people know, if I have an issue with healthcare, 10th of March, ABCD Hall in Kariobangi, I'm going there. We don't need dialogue for now. We need to create a structure where government is forced to listen to people consistently, and that public participation must have a weight in whichever policy and whichever law is being passed. So, for example, this finance bill, right? There was public participation. Whether you want to take it in terms of how people complained on social media or how people came on media and talked about it, people talked about it. Yet a majority of parliamentarians refused to listen. Why? Because that parliamentarian will see you in church when he's giving a harambe, and then he'll see you next at elections to lie to you again. When we create a system where stakeholders are consistently engaged and we make sure that those thoughts are what form policy, then we will have created what I call positive tension between leadership and the people, and it continues to be so.
So essentially what we're saying is that you really want to have folks on tenterhooks.
Yes.
Because the likelihood of you misperforming or misbehaving reduces significantly when you understand that people are watching your every move.
Yes. Why do you think Japan, with its incredible debt, has survived? Because a minister will resign because a train derailed. He wasn't driving the train. He was not maintaining the railway. But he takes such responsibility, and the people expect that he will be responsible even for the train driver who he has never met.
You know, for a moment there, I thought you were going to go to South Korea, I think they are ahead of every country on this planet when it comes to jailing their former presidents.
Yes.
But as you said correctly in the beginning, these are movements we've had before.
Yes.
Movements where people are protesting tax. Movements where people are protesting the learning curriculum before independence and saying, no, this curriculum is substandard. People forming their own independent schools because they're saying the way these guys are teaching us doesn't really help us. You're right. We have had that history as Kenyans. Now, is it that the vigilance that was required was not applied judiciously, or is it that there is something about our politics and the nature of it that is so corrosive that it is impossible to assume goodwill on the part of anyone who aspires to be a political leader or is a political leader? Or are we saying that our lived experience when it comes to our politics is such that the self-seeking nature of people who aspire to be political leaders, and this can't be true of all, because I know political leaders who actually look after the interests of their people. But are we saying that just so that we are on the safe side and that we are on the side of caution, the vigilance should not stop?
Yes.
Irrespective of the goodwill somebody may garner when they get into office, the vigilance must not stop.
Exactly.
And an accountability mechanism must be set in place where you are told, this is what you said, and this is what you are doing, and this is not what we agreed. Either go back to factory settings or leave the job.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Because if we don't do that, the political class, especially in Kenya, is used to getting away with murder, literally. Okay? We thought the courts would do it. We thought ESCC will do it. We thought the Cohesion Commission would do it. No. Those institutions derive power from the people. The people who are listening to me have created not only good tension between ourselves and politicians, but we've given our politicians the golden ticket to go down on record to be the politicians who changed this country. The only way we achieve that is we don't legeza that rope.
So the biggest change that I'm seeing here is not even on the politicians at all, it's on the people.
Yes.
Because the people have got, first of all, to change the idea of who the politician is.
Yes.
That this person is not my leader, this person is my servant. That the person that I've elected into office, I've sent them to go and do a job.
Yes.
I'm the employer. I have given them a clear job description. They are coming back and I'm evaluating their performance.
Yes.
And I shall give them periodic performance reviews. And once I give you the third strike, you're out.
Yep.
And it's clear that way. So that this person does not come and tell you, Pangeni raini hapa ama amutapata basari.
Yes. Exactly.
They know how to come and treat you. They know that they are supposed to come and tell you how your children are going to school.
Yes.
Not to come and tell you how they will take your child to school.
Exactly. And you see,
it's the people.
Yeah. And you see, to the politicians listening to me, what Gen Z has done for you is a historic moment for you to prosper. Because you have carte blanche to do everything right without the punishment that usually comes from the corrupt.
I think, and a number of times now you've said the message is here is to root or to seize the moment.
Yes. Yes.
To the politicians to
Take
seize
the
the moment.
opportunity.
Forget about those guys, Mark.
Now I'm saying
It is for Mark Bichachi, Eric Latiff, CT Muga, Ndu Okoh to seize the moment.
True.
These guys don't have to. Because the moment they do, the moment they seize the moment, they will do it and then they'll find a way of
They'll hold it
calling
captive.
back. If we do,
They'll
they
never get
have
it back.
no option
true.
But to toe the line.
to toe the line, to transform. It is for us to actually realize that, you know what, we now understand. We understand the processes. We understand our power. We understand our constitution. And we need to even get to understand it more. We need to test it more. We can actually recall an MP. Let's try it out. Let's see. We need to seize the moment.
And that's what I mean.
They will come.
By the people seizing the moment, any person who has goodwill for this country can only do what should be done. That is to agree with the people.
Essentially, you're saying they should follow the lead of the people,
Yes.
not the other way around.
Yep. Exactly.
They should not at it turn and say, "Oh, you guys are not behind me, so let's say, let me come ahead."
Yeah.
Or let me come and come to
They
the front
should
of the
follow.
queue. No.
And that's why,
Yeah.
for any person in leadership, governor, president, whoever, new vision, new direction, listen to the people. History will judge you favorably. Or else, utasalimiwa.
That's where we are.
So how should we do that?
Agitate. Keep pushing. Create groups. This Gen Z movement, and I don't think it's a Gen Z movement anymore, because I've met very old people who wish they could crawl to those mandamano. It's a Kenyan renaissance. Our conscience as a people is coming back online. Our sense, corruption was not an issue in 2022 elections. Today it is an issue. Today Kenyans want corruption to end. Today Kenyans don't want tribalism. It's as if our conscience suddenly came back to life. And since that is the case, what we need to do now is group ourselves into our areas of specialization and decide that we will not only hold leaders accountable, but now we will begin to propose solutions. Not just oppose, because we're good at opposing.
But
Now
propose.
we need to propose. So, for example, we want cabinet secretaries. Who do you propose? What makes a good communications cabinet secretary, for example?
Champion the people who you'd like to see in that cabinet.
Exactly. So let's stop just opposing. Let's propose.
I love it.
Mark Bichachi, thank you for joining us. And thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room today. So we're seeing a lot of activity across the country. Leo ni Tuesday. Tuesday. Have a lovely one. Have a peaceful day. Let's see you back here tomorrow. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.